Bush as president because of that. Now, they want their votes to count, and I understand that the military wants their votes to count, and they're in the same position. Now, what I'm saying about this is that you got to keep in mind that a statistical analysis has been done by the top experts in the United States. Some Republicans, some Democrats, some Canadians. They all reached the conclusion that beyond any doubt, Vice President Gore won the election in Florida.
But the latest count also shows that even with the hand recount, with some of those the disputed, the questionable ballots being factored in, that Vice President Gore is only picking up a few dozen votes. I think 63 votes in Palm Beach and Broward is the latest count we saw.
Well, I haven't seen the latest counts. I'm not talking about those counts.
You're talking about?
I'm talking about the statistical analysis done of the 29,000 votes thrown out in Palm Beach, the 28,000 thrown out in Miami-Dade. And what the statisticians and the top social scientists in the country did is they looked at the double punches, they looked at the ballots, and they then were able to compute with almost absolute certainty, beyond any DNA evidence certainty, in fact, that Gore won. And the voters in Palm Beach County, despite what Mr. Buchholz says, and what they're not going to just stand for setting back and saying, well, we're going to just let these manual counts go through and our ballots be ignored. This confusion was created by the ballot, and they're entitled to their votes just like everybody else is.
Now, Carl, Steve just a moment ago raised an issue that's come up in the last 24 hours or so, and that's about the overseas ballots, the overseas military ballots, where the Republicans are saying way too many of them were thrown out. In fact, they're saying that there was an organized Democratic campaign to have them thrown out, under the theory that more of those ballots would be going for George Bush than for Al Gore.
Right, there absolutely was. I was down there all week last week, and my law firm has 12 lawyers down there now counting those ballots, and there is an organized campaign by the Gore campaign to exclude the military ballots, to keep our servicemen abroad from being able to cast their votes.
Why is it that the Republican side is saying don't count the recounted votes? If the votes were cast, were intended to be cast for whatever candidate, why not count them?
Well, what the Bush campaign wants is a fair and accurate recount.
Well, the question becomes, what makes it accurate?
Well, what makes it accurate is a machine recount. What makes it inaccurate is a hand recount. That I was down there this week, and we passed ballots from person to person as we were looking at them. And in Broward County, as we were looking at the ballots, 78 Chads fell out as we were looking at it, like confetti, fell out. And so the vote's changing literally in front of your eyes as you're trying to recount the vote, and recount and recount and recount. And what the Gore campaign wants to do is recount and recount and recount until they get the result that they want.
But even the people who make the machines that machine count the ballots say they're not 100% accurate.
They're not 100% accurate, but they're more accurate than a hand recount. Wow. A hand recount is subjective by its nature, and what the Gore people want to do is get in there and find any reason to throw out a Bush vote.
Let me tell you first about the military vote, and then I'll get to this point.
Okay.
On the military vote, I got a call from a sergeant in Germany on Thursday of this past week. She told me as follows. She received a ballot 60 days prior to the election. She received another ballot a few before October 15th. She received 2 ballots. She was honest. She only voted 1. She also told me she got 5 registration cards from her county, which was Hillsborough, which is Tampa, Florida. She's a registered Republican. I think that whole military vote is a little fishy, and if they don't have postmarks, I don't think they should be counted. That's Florida law, and the reason they made it law is in the 1998 election, they had a mass fraud with the absentee ballot, so they decided to be very strict. Many states, you have to have your ballot in by election day. Florida, you're allowed 10 days after it. I don't think that's fair. That the military in Florida would be allowed 10 days extra when other states, like I think North Carolina, you got to have it in on election day. Now, going to this point about the recounts, we've been hearing this and hearing this and hearing this. The best way to count votes is by a manual count. Everybody knows that except the Republicans. These chits and all this kind of junk, that's a bunch of garbage. Secondly, if they really wanted to do it right, they would do a statistical analysis. It's been done by the top people in the United States. Stick to that. Then you have an honest vote. I tell you with absolute certainty Vice President Gore won the election in Florida by several thousand votes if they allowed the statistical analysis or a revote. And if they don't want to do that, then Governor Bush is going to be sanctified as the President of the United States, having lost Florida if the votes were truly counted, and having lost the popular vote in the United States. And that is wrong.
We're going to have to leave it there. Gentlemen, thank you both.